I am good. I just put that on so we can actually record this. I'm really good. I'm excited to chat to you. I'm sorry that it's at this portion of the game, and I especially really like when I get to chat to like proper real fans of Survivor. Not that other people aren't, but I know how big a fan of Survivor you are. So it's actually really great to chat to you about your experience out there.
I love that. I totally am a big fan and have been watching forever, but I will say I'm nowhere near like super fan. Like I have too bad of a memory for that. And
Yeah.
I am just amazed now being on the other side of it and talking to fans, like all of the information that they can store in their brains. It's amazing.
Yeah, look, I obviously run a podcast on Survivor and have talked about it for like over a decade at this point. But
Right.
it does surprise me. I still meet people. I think I'm like I know a lot about Survivor, but then I meet people and they can tell you about what happened in episode like 3 of Token Chains, and it's like, oh, I have no
Yes.
relevance or understanding of what that is. So I completely
It's
get it.
wild.
But
Yeah.
you talked about in the show that you've been a fan since you were 8 years old watching this show, your family, and then obviously getting to go out and have the experience. I guess from my perspective, what surprised you from jumping off the couch and playing the game to the reality of what Survivor actually is?
Yeah, so much. It's night and day, right? When you're living it versus just watching it. I think one of the biggest things that surprised me were the actual elements and living outside, sleeping in the dirt and the sand and not eating. I basically didn't eat for 11 days. Like all I ate was a few bites of coconut, and I think I had like a banana after we won that reward challenge.
Yeah.
So that stuff really does get to you. And you can see, players like losing weight, and you can see players getting more irritated and things like that. But living it and feeling like just utterly exhausted all day long from doing nothing
Yeah.
and just starting to feel that mental brain fog set in, like those things really did take me by surprise, just because I luckily, gratefully, have never experienced something like that.
Yeah, no, thankfully, that's not. I get hangry at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, let alone 11 days eating a banana. So
It's
I
crazy.
can't imagine. Uh, okay, your game, obviously, you get switched over into a 2-2-1 situation. You're the one, you don't have your vote. You're building relationships with people out there. It
Yeah.
seemed as if you had built a fairly strong relation with Cedric, but they didn't necessarily show that in clear detail.
Yeah.
And I want to talk a little bit about that because I feel like I've seen some commentary online about your decision, and we'll get to that in a second to talk to Cedric about you not having a vote. But I feel
Sure.
like that doesn't come from that doesn't come unless you have the relationship. So can you talk a little bit about that relationship you were building with Cedric and others on the tribe?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't think there's only so much they can fit in 90 minutes. But I don't think they did show a lot of the conversations and relationship building I was doing with Cedric. We had had several very intense personal conversations about life things. We had had a specific conversation about him working with Justin and how Justin was his number one, and how Justin went home because Justin did not tell Cedric that he didn't have a vote. And Cedric verbatim said that to me. So there were definitely a lot of conversations that we had, and we're trying to establish trust and build that relationship. And that's why I ultimately did, decide to try and trust him, even though it didn't work out.
I guess in terms of the edit, we head to the tribal council and we think there's going to be like two sides voting against each other, and you're kind of in the middle of that. Had it been and played out the way that you'd hoped to,
Yeah.
what was the thought process around how what kind of conversations you were going to have in that moment?
Yeah, I think the fear was that one, there was the potential that we would get to rocks, right? Like there always was the potential that someone wasn't going to flip.
Yeah.
So I definitely was a little bit worried about that. And that also went into my decision process of telling Cedric. I think if we had just gone to the 2-2, I would have had to do a lot of explaining in the moment. And it would have been very obvious. I lied to everyone.
Yeah.
So obviously, I'm safe on that revote, but then there's just always the option we go to rocks or the possibility that stuff blows up. Like you've seen the tribals this season. They've
Yeah,
been
crazy.
wild. So you just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I feel like I believe the stat is we've had one majority vote in episode two the entire season so far. The rest of it has been minority votes getting up. So
It's crazy.
it's been a crazy season, and it's so interesting. Obviously, you had a vote hypothetically, it looked like you were going to team with Cedric and say over Chrissy and Mitch. What was making you lean that way in particular?
It really was just about old Loggy numbers versus old Siva numbers,
Yeah,
and trying to get to the mergatory and to the merge. And I think I was leaning more in the Cedric Say camp, really just because why would I keep more Siva around, or old Siva around and
yeah,
go to the merge with a little bit more of a threat there? But here's the thing, like, Said and Say made it very clear that they weren't necessarily wanting to work together. So that was why I was like, oh, like I have Cedric telling me he's already tried to vote Say out. I have Say
yeah.
telling me Cedric has already tried to vote her out. It didn't seem like the craziest far-fetched idea of me telling him to vote for Say again. So I really, I would have had to really think about it because if I got the instinct that these two were just not going to vote together with me, then I wouldn't have worked with them and I would have just gone with Chrissy and Mitch.
Yeah, look, I hear you, and it's one of those things. I don't know. This is a very meta thought, but I think watching this season back and kind of seeing Cedric's pathway, he's already voted for six people this season. That's a
It's
third of your
crazy.
cast.
Like, what was he doing? I'm
Uh,
sorry. I am still so confused.
I feel
Like,
like you should
why?
feel. Yeah, I don't know if you should feel like a little bit vindicated. Like, oh, okay, well, like, what can you do in that situation? You played the game as you probably should statistically and probability
Ugh.
wise, and then it doesn't play out, and it's hard. And obviously, look, you talk about alliances and relationship. We saw Thomas, your ride or die leave in the previous vote. Did you? What kind of emotions did you have after seeing that Thomas had left?
Oh my God. Obviously, I mean, you saw my reaction in the episode. I
Yeah,
just couldn't believe it. What you didn't see and what we didn't see was Jeff asking me what I thought about that. And I immediately said, I think Kyle or Camilla played an idol. Like I had that gut feeling that the only way he went home was if he got idled out.
yeah,
So that was my gut reaction. And then I actually, when we went back to Siva Beach, I went idol hunting for quite some time because I was so certain that they must have idled him out. And I thought maybe it was hidden back on Siva Beach. And I was pretty right about
yeah.
that.
No, I love that you went and did that, and exactly right. Like
Yeah.
I chatted to Thomas last week. It was one of my favorite podcasts in a long time. He's such a legend, and
He is the that like I
it's so
can't
good.
believe I get Thomas out of this whole entire experience. I just feel so lucky to have him as a best friend for life.
No, I love that. That's such a good thing. And yeah, I love that you went and did that. And again, that's why it's an editor's show. We don't get to see everything, but I love that that was
Yeah.
your mindset around it and doing that. Jumping back a little bit, obviously to Luggy and talking about that. Obviously, you lose your vote. Can you talk a little bit about the journey and that whole experience for you as a one as a player, but also as a fan, and how you can process that?
Yeah, player and fan points of view are honestly very different.
Yeah,
As a player, I was pissed. I did not want to go on that journey. I did not volunteer to go on that journey. Loggy, like we had a team tribe decision where Thomas and I were going to be the journey goers for our tribe.
yeah,
So it's hard to when there's like everyone making this vote and consensus decision, it's hard to fight that and cause friction and be like, no, I'm not going, like you go, kind of a thing. So once Thomas and I kind of like accepted the fact that we would go, and listen, here's the other thing, Ryan, like at this point, we had never seen a season of Survivor where you didn't have the
yeah.
choice to risk
Choice.
your vote.
Yeah, exactly.
Correct. So, like, obviously it happened in 47, but we had not seen 47. So I didn't think it was going to be as much of a death sentence as it really was. And you also kind of think there's so many different ways to look at a journey, right? Like you can go on a journey and make like stop someone else from getting an advantage. So there's different ways to think about it. As a player, I didn't want to go, but as the fan in me, like watching the player do the thing. Like it's
Yeah.
awesome. Like it's
Yeah.
so exciting to go on a journey. It's another layer of gameplay. I got put in like the worst spot ever. I lost my bow. I got put on the bottom of a tribe swap. But how many fun opportunities to play and think about different scenarios
Yeah.
and obviously I ultimately chose the wrong one, but it still gave me like so many fun avenues and challenges to play with.
Yeah. And that's part of the what I hope you take away from the whole experience, right? Because obviously it's disappointing that you don't make it past a certain point, but it's the memories, it's the experience, it's the cool things. And there's so many people who play
A
Survivor
million percent.
and don't get anything. They just sit in the background and get voted out. Like at least you got to experience the game and be like a pivotal person and character. Not that I should refer to you as a character, but a character on the show. And it's like you're a real flesh 3D person. But talking of being witness to the show as well, I think I have to like ask you a little bit about the Joe and Eva situation last night. Obviously,
Mhm.
ritual tribe mates. There was like discussion earlier in the season that maybe Eva might be someone to be taken out um, through you and Thomas. Like watching that scenario play out, hearing that information, and I guess like you have two experiences. You have the one on the island watching it, but then I guess also
Yeah.
witnessing it in your elimination episode last night. Like what
Yep.
has that been like for you as just like as a bystander to that whole experience?
Yeah, it was extremely moving and powerful to experience it firsthand. I think that it was a really good reminder in the moment of like you just never know the full story about someone. You
Yeah,
don't. And I just think she's incredibly brave and I have from day one and still think Eva is so fierce and so badass. I'm grateful I was put on a starting tribe with her. And it's just such a crazy mind fuck because, excuse my language,
no, you're
you're
fine.
going through really emotional, powerful moment, but we're still in the middle of the game. So you're like, wow, Eva and Joe just showed all of their cards in front of everyone.
Yeah.
What does this mean moving forward? What does this mean for their game? What does this mean for Loggy going into the merge? What does this mean for my game? So there were a ton of different levels and just a lot to process during
Yeah.
it.
No, so many, and it's so cool, and I think that's the thing. Like you can have those human moments, but I think Jeff put it well. Like the next vote, you can still be blindsiding the other person out, and that's Survivor.
Absolutely.
You have to do what's
Yeah.
best for you ultimately, and that's part of the fun. Just some stuff about like obviously we saw Star give away that idol as well. Do you have any thoughts on that? And
Yeah.
like you guys had apparently Thomas said that you guys had cracked the code and knew what to do to open it. Do you have any thoughts about that whole scenario?
I was mind blown by that. I couldn't believe that Star gave it to Eva. Maybe it was a strategic decision to try to forge a little bit of an alliance with her and a relationship there, since they really were kind of going head to head up until that point.
Yeah.
I can't imagine giving away an idol, especially
No,
publicly. Like that's
neither.
just crazy to me. But maybe I got to give her the benefit of the doubt and think like maybe she was doing that from a strategic point of view.
Yeah.
Thomas and I definitely we had figured out listen. We had thought it was listen at the time, and we just like weren't telling her. We were
Yeah.
like, we're gonna wait until we either need to tell her or don't and figure it out, but it ended up being silent for ours. But yeah, that was wild to watch last night. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. No, I think you and Thomas are key examples why knowledge is power in the game. And sometimes when you share that knowledge, it changes the dynamic. So I agree. I think that you guys did the right thing. I do have to let you go, but I'm just going to ask you one last question. It's one I ask every contestant I have come on. And that is about the concept of gratitude. I'm really big on the practice of gratitude, empathy, and mindfulness. And like it's something I like practice every day. And
Wait,
I
I'm so sorry. I didn't hear what you said.
Oh no, that's okay. I'll just say it again. So,
Yeah.
something I love to talk about at the end of these podcasts is the concept of gratitude. It's something I practice
Yes.
every day. I think it's such an
Love
important part
that.
of how we are and who we are as people. And obviously, you've just gone through this whole experience. What are you grateful for from your Survivor experience?
Brian, I love that so much. You're speaking my language. I'm someone that wakes up every single morning and says affirmations. I
Love
have a
this.
gratitude journal. So it has been a really, really core part of shifting that mindset and definitely coming back devastated and heartbroken and wishing I went farther and had so much game left in me to play that I wish I got to do. But at the same time, I am eternally grateful for this experience. I never anticipated getting lifelong friends out of Survivor and
Yeah.
going back to Ponderosa with Steph, Kevin, Justin, and Thomas. Like, that crew was just, we will be friends forever. I'm so grateful for those relationships. And I'm just eternally grateful for this entire experience. It pushed me, it showed me what I'm capable of. I'm so proud of how I played. And yeah, it's exactly that. Like, let's just focus on the gratitude and the good stuff.
Yeah, and 100% again. And what a pre-merge trip that would be. I feel like we needed that Ponderosa. That would be that
I
would be the
know
highlight.
we should all go away together.
Did you
You can
guys
come.
thank you. Welcome. Did you where did you guys you don't have to say it and you might not be able to, but did you guys come to Australia? Because sometimes they come to Australia from Fiji. Did you go anywhere else or did you stay in Fiji?
We stayed in Fiji.
Yeah, nice. So good. Love
Yeah.
that. So good. Love that. Such a great place, such a good thing. And thank you so much for being so open and sharing all
Thank
of
you
that stuff.
so much. I really appreciate it. It was so nice to meet you.
Lovely meeting you and best of luck. I hope you enjoy, being a witness to the rest of the season and seeing how your
I
friends
can't
play it
wait.
out.
I am so proud of my cast. This has been a kick-ass season. I'm so excited to keep cheering them on and watching and rooting for them.
Agreed. And I'll just say this, last night's episode was the highest rating episode in about like 7 years,
I
and that
saw
is above
that.
finales. So it does talk about your cast being kick-ass and doing amazing things. So loving that, and loving your
Wow.
experience. So congrats on that. And yeah, best of luck for the rest of the show, Bianca.
Thanks so much, Ryan. It was so nice to meet you.
Lovely meeting you too. Thank you to Laura as well for setting this up. Thanks, Laura.
Ryan, you're so
Thanks. Sorry, not
sweet.
on
Oh,
camera,
that's okay.
but thank you,
Thank you,
Bianca.
Laura.
All
No,
right.
Thank you
no,
Thanks,
both.
guys.
Have a
Bye-bye.
great rest of your day.
thanks. Thanks, Bianca. Bye.